Well, hello everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and what a great day this is going to be. Why? Because we welcome to Square Off MS Now's Man of Steel. Michael Steele makes his return engagement. Good to
What's
see you,
up,
sir.
brother?
How you doing?
I am good. It's good to be back with the Square Off family. I hope everybody is doing well, is getting ready for summer. It's coming on top of us. Get those bikinis and those swimming trunks out and get ready to roll.
Wow. Are you wearing bathing trunks under that?
No, I'm not doing that.
Hey,
I'm in business attire.
okay, very good. It's great to see you. It really
It's
is.
good to see you, my friend.
Well, we last saw one another just a few weeks back at the White House Correspondents Association dinner at the Washington Hilton
Yep.
Hotel. That's when 31-year-old Clay Thomas Allen, armed with a shotgun, pistols, and knives, he breached the Secret Service checkpoint. He shot a Secret Service agent whose bulletproof vest probably saved his life, and he was captured before he could reach the doors to the ballroom, thank goodness. Inside, President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President Vance, and many of the cabinet secretaries were there. What's your reaction to what happened that night, now that you've had time to think about it?
Well, yeah, no, being in the room and having that occur, watching you know, people in the room duck for cover, in their gowns and tuxedos, winding up under tables, Secret Service agents jumping over chairs, knocking over chairs, literally walking on top of tables to get to their protectees, because you had most of the cabinet in the room. Um, and it was a stunning moment, looking up at the stage, seeing the president escorted out, watching the president trip at one point as they were taking him out, um, and then to have the door burst open in the room and Secret Service, I mean, literally like a phalanx of them come running through the center of the room. It just it just reminded me of what it must have been like and what it is like for young people in classrooms around the country, who've had to live through school shootings, who have to live with shooting drills because part of that is duck and cover. And it really spoke to me about, as a nation, what we've allowed ourselves to come to with political violence. We can no longer disagree. We can no longer agree to disagree. We can no longer have a conversation about the very disagreements that we may have in an effort to solve them. Our first thought and reaction is one of dismissiveness, which leads to irrelevance, which leads to insignificance, which leads to violence. And when you go down that road, and the further down you go, Richard, you think less and less of the individuals you call your fellow Americans. This is what happens. I don't know what this man's psychology, psychopathy, or his mental issues were. Apparently, he's a pretty smart guy, MIT graduate,
Right.
yada yada, all of
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So this is not about where you went to school, how poor you are, what color you are, or any of that. It's about an ideological mindset that takes control of rational thought to the point where your only response is to go kill somebody. And that's a problem. We need to dial it back. I'm not putting the blame on Trump. I'm not putting the blame on Democrats. I'm putting the blame on us, because we are the ones that allow this to happen. If we don't want our kids to be shot up in classrooms, if we don't want our uh, president's life to be an attempt on his life 3 times in two
Right.
years,
Third time.
um, if we don't want to live like this, then we have to stop it, and we have to decide what the new parameters are going to be for political discourse and engagement.
How are we ever going to
Certainly, it
stop it,
shouldn't be
Michael?
this.
How are we ever going to stop it? Seems to only be getting worse.
Well, people just need to stop their own stupid. I mean, at the end of the day, look, you and I have been around long enough to know in both media and politics the intersectionality of those two, how they have fed off of each other for generations, has never involved this, right? You could write a hot op-ed about something or go on your show and give an opinion or thought about a political decision or policy without fear of retribution. It was part of the political discourse. Your viewers would write a letter to you saying, "Richard, you're full of it," or "Richard, I couldn't agree more." That was the extent of it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, do I have security to get to my car? What the hell are we doing? So, we have brought ourselves here. We've allowed political leaders, and to this extent, I will look at Trump and others and say, do you really need to tell people in an audience to go smack the crap out of people they don't like or disagree with them? No. Do you really need to castigate and make fun of the attack on the Speaker of the House husband? No. And do you really need to say at the moment you learn of the death of a political opponent that you're glad he's dead? What do you think feeds off of that? We do. The people do. And so, leadership has always been the definitional point, Richard. We look to our leaders for a reason. They are an extension of us. And right now, our leaders are reflecting us. So if you
Well,
want to change it, you've got to change how we approach these things and then make sure that we're electing people that reflect our better angels as opposed to the worst devils in us.
well, there's a new NBC News poll out this week showing the president's approval rating has down to 37%. 67% of disapprove of Trump's handling of this war with Iran. So, where do you stand on this situation in
We
Iran?
shouldn't be there. What the hell are we doing in Iran? I mean, look, for all of the noise about Iran over the last 47 years, and folks, I come at this from a very unique perspective because back in 1981 and excuse me, 83, 84, when I returned from the Augustinian Seminary, I started work at an international law firm in Washington, D.C. called Surrey and Morse. And at that firm was a young female partner by the name of Jane Frank Carmen, who would go on to become a congresswoman, Mark Ginsburg, who would go on and become ambassador, a U.S. ambassador. And we worked together on a little thing called the Iranians Claim Tribunal, which was the tribunal that was created after the Iranian hostage crisis. And when the hostages came home, after Reagan got elected, we set about the work of putting together this tribunal. So my perspective on Iran goes back to that time. And look, should Iran have a nuclear weapon? No, hell no. Everybody knows that. So you don't have to keep telling us that. That's not the basis of anything right now because there's nobody on the planet that's saying, yeah, give them a nuke except Iran and its cohorts. But the way you go about that negotiation, the way you put that in place is not through weapons, it's not through bombings, it's not through killing individuals, and certainly not through the killing of 13 U.S. Servicemen and women. So there was a deal. that Barack Obama, over 2 years, had gotten Iran to agree to. Donald Trump tore it up. Why? Not because it was a bad deal, but because it was a deal crafted by Barack Obama. And here's the sick, dumb part of all of this. I guarantee you that when a final deal is struck with Iran, you know what it's going to look like?
What?
It's going to look like the Barack Obama deal that Donald Trump tore up because it's the only damn thing Iran is going to agree to. And here's the kicker, Richard. Before the bombing, the recent bombing, now note it, 2 times before they were at the negotiating table, Iran was sitting here getting to a point and they were attacked by the US. So the Iranians have gotten to the point where they just don't trust the negotiations. But they said, okay, the last time they got to a point in the deal, and this is verified and reported on, where they gave up stuff that even Obama couldn't get, right? So they extended the JPAOC, the AOC deal that Obama had put in place. They got a little, the administration had gotten a little bit more. And then next thing you know, they're attacking Iran. And so Iran said, all right, shut down the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to walk away from the negotiating table. And here we are.
It seems obvious, Michael, that the president is not interested really in settling this thing.
No,
You agree with me?
I do. I do. I don't think there is. Look, he thought this would be Venezuela. He thought he could go yippee-ki-yay, go in, snatch out the top leadership, install what he thinks would be give power to everybody else in that leadership, which is the craziest thing. Why do you go get Maduro and leave behind all the other bad actors to run the country? But okay, grab the oil. We got oil. We're good. So now we're going to go into Iran. And why are we going to Iran? Yeah, okay, we can something about nuclear, but it's about the oil and all the little contracts and the grift that comes from. I mean, you send not U.S. diplomats, not the Secretary of State, but 2 businessmen to go negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. How dumb is that?
Very.
So people, I mean, I get it. You want to put your Donald Trump blinders on and think he's the smartest thing since a dried up piece of toast? Do it. I don't give a damn. But no, there are consequences from that. And we're living through those consequences now because he's not engaged. This is the president who doesn't even read his presidential daily briefing because it's too many words on paper. And so when you have your leadership team around you, Richard, who are afraid to tell you the truth, who color the information they give you, and we just heard last week and saw reporting out of Fox News of all places about how the president, how the Pentagon leadership are sort of checking themselves because, there are allegations that they're not telling the president everything. Of course they're not, because he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to know the hard, ugly truth of that come from the consequences of invading a country that we were not at war with.
All right. Michael, it's so great to have you back on Square Off. We're talking exclusively with Michael Steele, former lieutenant governor of the state of Maryland, and a lot of other things, almost a priest. And we're going to talk about that because I want to talk about the Secretary of State's trip to the Vatican to settle the dispute, if he could, between the president and the Pope. But first, here is our spokesperson, the voice of Square Off, Howard Mallison. Howard, step in.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. You're going to find Baltimore's best crab cakes and more at Pappas Restaurant and Sports Bars. Locations in Parkville, Cockeysville, Glen Burnie, and Bel Air. It's Oprah's favorite. And the insurance companies can't tell you where to take your car. So you should trust leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. Call 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. And also the law firm of Barry Glazer. He's your advocate for personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. Barry Glazer gets top dollar from the insurance companies. Call 410-457-8568. And board certified podiatrist Dr. Kelly Gagan offers laser treatments for unsightly toenails, safe and painless. Call Dr. Gagan at 410-753-4422 for an appointment. And for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it's the Double T Diners. Locations all over town. Totally terrific. Great food. So many choices. Back to you, Richard, in this wonderful interview.
Excellent. Thank you, Howard Mallison, the voice of Square Off. The show would be nothing without you. Talking again with Michael Steele. And Michael, well, back with our exclusive special guest, the first African-American lieutenant governor of Maryland, former chair of the Republican National Committee, once Mike Tyson's brother-in-law, and almost a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
Very close. But you chose instead to become a television monster.
No.
Because you're a big star over there at MSN. What was MSNBC? Now you're MS Now. But I wanted to ask you, how close were you to being a priest?
So I was in my novitiate at the Augustinian Seminary up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and so I left right before it was time to take simple vows. So yeah, I was a number of years away from theology and the priesthood, but I was in formation, and I had received the habit and all of that. So I was, doing my thing. But God has a way of calling all of us. And it was interesting when Pope Leo, Robert Prevost, was elected. I had a lot of flashbacks. I had a lot of friends that I knew at the time at Villanova, where I was first sent after I graduated from Hopkins. And we were talking about when and if our paths crossed with then young brother on his way to priestly formation, Robert Prevost. He was in the Midwestern province, which is Chicago and so forth. I was in the Eastern province, but our houses that we lived in, houses of formation, were on the Villanova campus, and there was a set of woods between the two. So we always used to cross paths, and I think I missed him by a year or so before he went off to Peru. So that connection, and I'm sure I met him when I was in high school, because he's a couple of years older than me. He was already in formation, but I was going through high school and college. I would spend a lot of time at Villanova, and I'm sure at some point, our paths had crossed. So that for me was really profound, Richard. And I think it's an important moment, inflection point, if you will, for our country and the globe to have an American Pope, something no one ever thought would happen because of the power centers involved here. And the Holy Spirit had a different plan. That's how that works.
Well, President Trump, as we know, was feuding, or probably is still feuding, with Pope Leo XIV. So he sent Secretary of State Marco Rubio to Rome to meet with the Pope. Now, Trump picks fights with almost anyone, but we've never heard of the Pope, the president, having a feud. What do you think that's about? I mean,
it's about ego. It's about an individual who's not afraid of him, that he can't control, that he can't browbeat. He can call the Pope names, and the Pope's response was, "I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. I'm not afraid of his administration." At the end of the day, trust me, Donald Trump and his administration needs the Vatican and the Pope more than they need him. Period. the intelligence network, the relational network for a president who has isolated himself from Europe, isolated himself from our allies in NATO. Um, he needs friends, and so Marco Rubio had got one more job from the administration, and that is janitor. And he was put on a plane, sent to the Vatican, not the Middle East, where there's a raging war of Donald Trump's choosing, but he's sent to the Vatican to take a crystal football to the president, to the Pope, from the president. Um, okay, but nothing's changed here, because even as the Secretary of State was preparing to go to Rome on Monday, the president is again trashing the Pope. He can't help himself, because his ego and his thinking is, you've got to heel to what I want. And that's just never going to happen here. And it's made worse by the fact that he's an American. And so you have these headlines where they say the most popular American on the planet is Pope Leo. That ekes the hell out of Trump. He can't stand that, because again, it somehow he sees himself as less than or not as valuable. And that's just the warpness of thinking. I mean, it's like, dude, you're the president of the United States. You could have a real ally with having an American Pope. But the Pope's message, again, was not one of policy. It was one of teaching. And we've seen this before, Richard. You had John Paul II, even though he was close with Ronald Reagan, set out a separate teaching from the policy of the administration when it came to Iran-Contra, right?
Right.
And so the liberation theology and other conversations around the dignity of work and human beings mattered. You had the exact same thing with the Pope and Bush on the Iraq War, where it was made very clear this was not a just war. This was not a matter in which your sovereignty was threatened that way. So it's just, it's a consistent thread of teaching by the Pope that this president, and I must admit, his vice president, who's purportedly Catholic, I just can't even begin to go there, but they just need to understand the particular roles that they play versus the role that the Pope plays.
All right.
And the Pope's role is one of teaching, a moral teaching about the policy that is taking lives and impacting people.
Well, Michael, I've got a lot of stuff we got to get to. I don't want to have to keep you for an hour or three, but I want everybody in the audience to know that the MSNBC changed to MS Now, and the MS, of course, stands for Michael Steele. So it's really built around Michael. You're now appearing with your wonderful co-anchors, Alicia Menendez and Simone Sanders Townsend, on now the weeknight on MS Now. How do you like your trio? And
I love my colleagues. I've learned a lot from both of them. They have very, very different styles, backgrounds, approaches. Alicia is just a straight up journalist. She cut her teeth in Miami and Florida, reporting there, has had her own show on MS, then MSNBC. Alicia was the communications strategist for the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, worked in the White House, brings that experience and insights. Her network, her Rolodex is amazing. And all of that is what we try to put on the table. Of course, I know a few people. Some of them return my phone calls from time to time, so we get them on the show. It's just been a lot of fun. It's a conversation, and now we're changing, Richard, as you know. Alicia, excuse me, starting in June, will get her own show at 12 noon, where she'll be able to bring the day's stories direct to people. And Luke Russert, the son of the
Oh,
inimitable Tim Russert, will join our table, and ha- that's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to having Luke at the table. So we're going through some changes. The conversation is going to expand. The people at the table will also grow, and we're really looking forward to it. We've been doing well. The numbers are strong, Richard. We are doing really
oh,
well. We are winning our demos, as they like to say in the business. I'm still learning how all the number stuff works. They had to translate if he'll love those. They had to translate the TV ratings into polling so I could better understand exactly
oh.
because I guess it's a lot like polling in some sense. Every night, people for 15 in 15-minute blocks tell you who they like and what they're watching. But it's really kind of interesting to watch. Um, Rebecca Cutter, who is the head of MS Now, to be able to pull out of whole cloth and create something that is really a game changer in the industry. So
Well, you are.
I'm just glad to be a part of it, man.
You're a great part of that team. You really are. We watch it almost every night. I wanted to ask you as we
Sure.
move toward the end of this half hour. Jimmy Kimmel Live has turned into the Burn Donald Trump show, as you know. Kimmel was fired for a few days. He came back, and it's now every night, night after night after night. What are your thoughts about that?
Look, you want to go after a comedian who's on air every night. This is what it looks like. A little thing called free speech, a little thing called, um, you know, constitutional opportunity, if you will. Our constitution affords us the opportunity to express directly to our leadership what we think of their policies and what we think of them. Satire, humor is a way in which we deal with things that can be oppressive and difficult. Um, a big part of what someone like Kimmel and Dave Chappelle and others do is to, while we're laughing at ourselves, hopefully, reflect on the truth of what's being said. We have an administration, a family, a business that is grifting the hell out of the federal government. Tell me, everybody got pissed off at the fact that Hunter Biden tried to sell a piece of art while Joe Biden was president, and people lost their mind. Donald Trump Jr. was just awarded a $26 million federal government contract by the Department of Defense. Really? And so if we can't talk about that in an honest way, we can't laugh about how completely ass backwards it all is. And if we can't compare and contrast the hypocrisy between how the right responded to Joe Biden and his son and how they're not responding to Donald Trump and his family, yeah, thank you, Jimmy Kimmel.
What Michael's
And that's all. It's all good. More of it, please.
what Michael's talking about is the U.S. Air Force will purchase interceptor drones from Power Us, a Florida-based defense contractor, partly owned by Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. The deal's worth millions, and there's also a separate $24 million Pentagon contract awarded to another defense contract, and its advisor has the name of Eric Trump. Now, before you go, we must ask
I
you,
want that work. because neither one of them know a damn thing about drones.
What,
Advisor. Okay,
Michael,
yeah.
what are
Come
your
on, y'all. You
plans?
think we're stupid. Anyway, sorry, Richard. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Are you running again ever?
I'd love to. I'd love to. One of the greatest gifts I received in my life was the vote of the people of Maryland, serving with Bob Ehrlich in our administration. Uh, Public service is it is a tribute that is bestowed on the public servant. It is something that should be honored at all time by those who are in elective office. And so when you see how most now treat that responsibility, um, it's disappointing. And it's no wonder citizens feel frustrated, have given up, don't want to participate. My hope is that they're good folks that are on deck and ready to rock and roll starting this November. There's still primaries around the country that are going to be taking place. I don't know what God has for me down the road. I still feel I got a little vim, a little vinegar, left. I'll look at every opportunity in this beautiful place called Maryland, and if there's a chance to run, yeah, I'd love to do it. Republican primary, and people go, "You still a Republican?" Yeah, hell yeah, I'm a Republican. I fundamentally believe what Lincoln and Frederick Douglass tried to do and what they did, what we went through a civil war for. It wasn't about just freeing black men and women. It was about freeing the Constitution up for everybody.
Wow.
And so that individual liberty and those rights matter. And that's not public policy. That's fundamental. That's foundational. We can debate public policy. We can have a conversation about whether there's too much this or that in the water or not enough this or that in the air, and whether or not you got enough health care and all of that. Those are very, very important. But fundamentally, if we don't have the right to freely associate, the Eighth Amendment, to freely speak, the First Amendment, to recognize that we're not one religion in this country. We are
Right.
many religions in this country, First Amendment, and that the states are preeminent, the 10th Amendment. If that is fundamentally taken away, then it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what policies you're advocating. So these are the things that kind of stay in front of me, Richard, and
Right.
keep my juices flowing for a possible future. So we'll see.
Well, great. Well, before we say goodbye to you, we want to offer Michael our congratulations to longtime Square Off panelist Arnold Weiner, who on this past Thursday evening was presented with the Robert C. Heaney Award for Arnold's outstanding professional achievement, ethics, and contributions to the practice of criminal law.
Oh, wonderful.
Congratulations, Arnold. He's a regular on the show.
Congratulations.
Have you met him, Michael?
I have not. Maybe in the past. He looks familiar, but congratulations.
Well, when you come to one of our Monday afternoon lunches, we're going to have Arnold there too, I promise.
All
Michael,
right.
as always, it's great to see you, great to speak to you. I'm glad everyone survived the assassination attempt a couple of weeks ago. And we know we'll have you back here in 3 or 4 months, and we can't wait. And good luck with your new show.
I appreciate you, Richard. Love you, my friend. You have
Love you too.
you have been such a cornerstone for me personally and for the Maryland community. And so just so happy to be on Square Off.
Thank you, Michael. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we square off. Thank you, Michael Steele. We'll see you next time when once again we do square off. Goodbye, Michael, and goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.